Greetings again from the team here at the Yugachua Art Chronicles podcast, where we discover the life and work of Paul Yugachua. In this episode, we jump back into the discussion about the state of the Apollo Gallery and hear about Paul's first large mural work. Then something happened. What happened to the Apollo at this time? What was going on?
So my father, we remained in Hawaii. That was actually it was like a month after Anton was born, September 81, and the bank, they said, okay, this is our land, but we need to extend now. So my father left. He was also around that time selling his business.
That's right.
And so he would have, of course, if he had lived. He did live for a few years on thereafter, but he always wanted to have another gallery, but he didn't get around to that. So when we came back, we did not have a gallery.
Wow.
But, we have so many other things we're doing. It doesn't matter. Well, we actually we were thinking of South America, but we had then 1 year back in Vancouver.
That's right. Yeah.
So, of course, we're doing, the shows, working, looking into new opportunities, whatever we can do, think of. And
I did the Nat Bailey show. Yeah, that's right.
But this is where you have the TV people interviewing.
They came around, the TV people were coming around the show, and they saw my large native face, so they asked if they could give me an interview. And I did the interview, and while the interview was on, this guy in Chemainus, Carl Schutz, who was in charge of creator of the little town that was regenerating itself from being a mill town into some sort of a tourist attraction, he decided that murals was going to be the thing. And so he saw the interview I had on the television, and phoned me and said, I'd like to talk to you about a proposition I have for a mural. So he came out from Chemainus, from Vancouver Island the next day, and we met. I think we met in the Holiday Inn, didn't we?
No, I think he came to the apartment.
He came to the apartment?
We bought our apartment in 1974, so we always had a place to come back to, which made things easy.
So he came to the apartment, that's right. And then he showed me exactly what the project was. That there was, it was going to be the native faces of the island, of the location in the village and the town. And there was 3 different faces going to be on the mural, and some introduction of the totem poles. And so I said, "Great, sounds like a good idea. I'd love to do it."
Yeah.
And he said, "We're pouring the cement for the wall. It's going to be 16 meters long by about 6 meters high, and it's going to be in the end. It's going to be the entrance to the town. So it's going to be the most important mural, and what do you think?" And I said, "Sounds great. I'd love to do it. Yeah, sure."
Yeah.
But of course, I had to wait a few months for the cement to be completely fixed and everything.
And you're not, you don't get, you're not stressed out about the opportunities like that. You just look at them as an opportunity. Because most people, you'd think, "Oh, blimey, that's quite a step up." And that's a fair bit of pressure. But
some things bigger. I did the mural in Hawaii, the Rodeo Club, and that was probably 5 meters long by about 2-3 meters high, so it's fairly big. But even the faces that I do of the natives were 4 foot high and 4 foot wide, each face. So I already was confident about doing a large face. These were obviously going to be like 2 meters. Each face was like 3 meters high or 2 meters high. By 1 meter or more wide, so it wasn't that much bigger than what I'd already done.
Okay.
So I wasn't too worried about that,
Yeah. And just to explain a bit about what Chemainus means and what it is, because to those of us who are not, tuned into native culture of the West Canada, explain a bit its background and why it's there, and
Chemainus is a town on the coast of Vancouver Island, and Macmillan and Bloedel, which is the big wood company, big logging company, this was where the mill was, where they used to cut all the logs into planks and ship them out. So it had a dock and everything, and it was a massive big factory.
Okay.
It had a train that used to bring in the wood, and so it was a very thriving business back before this time.
Yeah.
But it was closing down, and the mill was going to be closing, and the people, of course, they had to find another source of employment, and this Carl Schutz had the idea of turning it into a tourist attraction by making the town full of murals.
Right.
Meaning there was going to be every street, every big building was going to have murals on it, and it was a great idea.
Yeah.
And so that was his project, and using all the different facilities, the history of the town. Most of the people were painting parts of their history. I was doing the native mural, which was basically the introduction of the natives, the Salish West Coast Salish band, you know.
So the Salish is the tribe. Is that what you would call it?
Yeah, the Salish, West Coast Salish, really are which go all the way up the coast. They have their own individual names for little bands, small bands.
Right.
But for instance, even here in Vancouver, we have the West Coast Salish, but we also have the Burrard band, the Squamish band, the Musqueam band, but these all belong to the West Coast Salish.
And they have their own culture and identity
They have their own identity, their own type of carvings.
Right.
That's basically it. So Chemainus was on the map as being a logging mill town, but then they were going to convert it, so everybody had to turn their businesses into tourist businesses. The restaurants were opening up, and art businesses like print shops. There was an art gallery there that I ended up with my work in as well. And so it was quite a thriving little place, you know. It had its own beach.
So at the point when you were approached, it was already...
It was just beginning.
Just beginning to find it.
They just started to turn it commercially into a tourist place.
Right.
They had, I think, one mural already done by an American guy, and then mine was, I think, number 3, the third mural to be done. So after that, I think they've got about 30 or 40 murals now. I've ended up doing 2 murals in the town. But this was the first one, the native faces.
And yours was the prime position. It was the...
Mine was the entrance to the town, so it was the first thing they see when they drive into the town.
Yeah. Okay.
Prominent, and it also had a park in front of it with like little fountains and everything. So they designed the whole thing around the mural, you know.
And so you had this proposition, and then the concrete was setting.
That's right. It was done. The concrete was set.
Yeah. Was it very prescriptive what he wanted you to do, or did you have to come up with your own interpretation?
He gave me the subject matter. He sent me the photographs of the faces. He had no idea what I was going to do, although he'd seen my work in Vancouver, so he knew the style I worked with. And I said, well, I can do a similar style where I put the faces strategic positioning on the wall with totems maybe on each end, and design it so that the composition flowed nicely, giving some of the history and everything in it, you know.
Yeah.
He seemed quite keen about that, so I just did a sketch. The night before I went, I did the sketch of the faces.
Yeah.
And once I'd done that and looked at the photographs, I basically knew what I was going to do, and I could even visualize the wall finished.
Okay, and so that sketch, one night before, you sketched out in pencil or something what the layout was going to be.
It was just a drawing, and I'd added some touches of colour to it, but it was just a rough sketch, you know.
And that's all the prep that you felt you needed to do a 16 meters mural. Yeah.
Well, the face. I mean, I had the photographs.
Yeah.
The photographs, that's all I needed. I can, I work from the photograph. I don't work from my sketch. My sketch basically was just to show them what I was going to do, you know, give them a rough idea of how I was going to place the faces, and the detail in the faces was going to happen, obviously, on the wall. I'm not going to do a detailed drawing of what's going on.
That I understand, yeah.
I did that after, though. They wanted then to do prints of the wall. It's very difficult to do prints from a mural. So I actually did a reproduction. I painted the mural again on canvas so that they could then make a print of it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. But anyway, it worked out good, you know.
So how did the first day go, or, you know?
Well, I got there, and they had, of course, in those days, they didn't have a scissor lift. You know, those are very expensive to rent. So they obviously were cutting back on everything. Yeah. They had scaffolding and ladders to work with, which is not my favourite. But back in those days, I was still quite young, so I could climb ladders and climb scaffolding pretty agile.
Yeah, you're a climber, yeah.
So I had all the stuff set up, and I just went in, picked the point on the wall where I was going to draw the eye of the main character.
Okay.
I just had to make sure that eye was in exactly the right spot and that it was going to be exactly the right size. So I did the eye. It took me about 2.5 hours to do this eye, beautifully drawn. And then I walked back to the other side of the street, about 50 yards away. Yeah. Took a look at it. I thought, all right, that looks good. And that's all I needed. Then I knew exactly how far down the nose was going to be, the mouth, the width of the face, the top of the head. And from there, I just basically went in and every day I drew a face. And then the next day I painted it. So it took 2 days for each face. And finished in about a week altogether, I think. He came.
I believe he came.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and I believe he was slightly. I believe he was slightly stressed.
Oh, he was mad as anything.
Why?
He said, "Well, where's your plan? Where's your plan?" I said, "What plan?" He said, "No. You either have to, you know, every other artist either had a graph all mapped out with lines that they had everything drawn so they knew where to put everything. Yeah. Or some of them actually came with an opaque projector and projected it in the dark at night." And drew over their work with a pen, with a pen or a pencil or a marker to make sure where they knew everything was going to be. So I said, no. I said, I just go in and draw it. That was before I drew the eye, right? So he just said, "Oh no, you got to, this is important, Paul. You have to have a better idea." I said, no, you wait and see. It'll be fine. Yeah, you'll like it. I had to convince him. Anyway, he went away shaking his head. But after I'd drawn, the eye and then he came and saw the first face. Oh yeah, of course, looked perfect. He didn't have enough confidence to begin with, but then he was okay.
I mean, it's because it sounds kind of superhuman to be able to see proportions from not a straight on perspective.
I think it's the gift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a musician who can play by ear, or an artist. A lot of artists they can visualize what they're going to do way before they even go onto the canvas. And so I think for me I just was confident that I wasn't going to be a problem. I mean, I didn't think of any negatives. I didn't think of anything that was going to be difficult. I just thought, no, here I am. I'm going to draw it. I've only got a week. Well, they weren't paying me a fortune, by the way.
No.
So they had them, they were going to give me a tax-deductible note, which was good. So I had that, but not much money, Anyway, they paid for our room and board, and we had food, restaurant free food and everything. So for the week, and Tala was there as well, and we got photographs of him. And Anton, of course, I forgot about Anton was there as well. Yeah. So we all had a nice time in Chemainus. At the same time, I did the mural. Sort of like a working holiday.
Most people wouldn't believe that, because it just seems. Yeah, it's superhuman to be able to see everything. Would you go backwards? Would you step back to where you'd seen the eye from, or would you never have to?
All the time.
Oh, you would?
All the time. Oh, yeah. I had to go back every time I completed a part of it to make sure everything was going right. It's just a matter of looking at it from a distance, and then, that's why I didn't like the scaffolding, because that conscripted my view,